And welcome to another edition of the KellumMD.com video podcast. Dr. Daniel H. Kellum Jr., Gabe Fadias from Kellum Family Medicine. Dr. Kellum, you and I were both high school athletes. We were both college athletes.
Yes, we were.
We weren't quite both good enough to take it to the next level, but we know friends that have played Major League Baseball, NFL football, and NBA basketball. Last Monday, I've watched a ton of sports. Everybody knows I call sports both on TV and on radio, and I've never quite seen a scene like we witnessed in the Buffalo Bills Cincinnati Bengals Monday Night Football game this last Monday, where Damar Hamlin, a defensive back, makes a routine tackle, goes in, T. Higgins makes a catch, goes into him, falls back, Hamlin stands up, collapses, and it just stunned the crowd, the announcers, the world, as people started to find out about this. And the topic for this show is the importance of our first responders. And I only highlight that instance because, Danny, I don't know any other way of putting it. First responders saved Damar Hamlin's life.
True, very true. And it was a horrible situation for most people to see. For us in medicine, we've unfortunately dealt with that kind of scenario before, and it's devastating, quite frankly. But for the general public to see someone have their heart stop is just inexplicable for most people. The beautiful thing about it, and the thing that I feel very proud of being a part of the medical community, is the response of the team, in particular the trainers. Gabe, we always talk about sports. We talk about preparation of the team, watching film, all that kind of stuff. But what goes unsung in many, many cases is the preparation of that staff. What you saw in that moment was people that have trained, prepared, and were ready in the moment that they needed to be there to save that kid's life. And they responded without hesitation and without hiccups, and proceeded to revitalize him, restart his heart, and get him to a place that they could resuscitate him and bring him back to hopefully, God willing, a wonderful recovery place. And so what you saw right there was healthcare and first responders at their finest, and it's what we deal with every day. Quite frankly, in our first responders that we have here in Shirts, really in the people we come across with in whatever scenario. And so it was quite amazing, and certainly makes us proud as a medical community to see that kind of response and that kind of outcomes, for sure. Yeah,
Dr. Kellum, it was quick, and people keep saying this was a 1 in a million kind of occurrence, but that's why you do this. That's why you prepare. That's why you're ready. And the lack of hesitation, the lack of any sort of delay. Well, let's monitor. The fact that they acted so quickly saved that kid's life.
It was instinctive, and it was truly their training come into fruition. And it's what we all hope happens in a crisis situation, when we just stop thinking and let our training really come to the forefront and manage our actions. And that's what they did. They were prepared. They were ready. And honestly, as we all as a community, with the first responders that we are surrounded with, but those particularly in that team, they're willing and able to save lives, and they do it without hesitation and without any kind of issue. And so in this case, they were blessed enough to bring him back. That doesn't always happen, but the beauty and the amazement of their actions, I think, is for all of us to just be thankful for. And the idea that first responders are always there for us, we should just take a blessing from that and just say thank you in many cases.
And really, we tell people, if you feel sick, if you have the sniffles, if you feel feverish, come in and see us. But the importance of first responders, we use them here at the clinic whenever something emergent happens in the clinic. And trust your first responders, because they are ready to act, and they are ready to act quickly. And in this case of Damar Hamlin, they're ready to save your life.
They are, and that's that situation for sure. But in any situation in our city, and the people, like I said, Gabe, we know here in Shirts, they're phenomenal, and I've seen them come and take care of people, and it amazes me every time. And so, again, we should always appreciate these first responders and take time to say thank you, because they do a fantastic job. One other point, if I have a second to make.
Absolutely.
We're really all first responders. And so what I think that we could get out of this particular situation more than anything else is the importance of CPR. And so for each and every one of you out there, go take a CPR class, because you don't know when you may be that first responder. And in those simple training, we can resuscitate people, we can keep them alive until first responders come. But every one of you out there in our podcast and in the community, take CPR, learn how to react in a situation like that, because you very well may be the person that can save a life. And it's simple. It takes a little bit of your time, but the benefit that you can give to someone and someone's family in perpetuity, I think, is amazing. And so for me, it's the acknowledgement of how fantastic our first responders are, but it's the importance of that particular thing for everyone to just learn basic CPR, because you can be that person that saves that life, and that's no small feat. And I would encourage everybody to use this opportunity to remember how important that is.
Yeah, because not only do they teach you that in these classes, they teach you how to deal with somebody who's choking, somebody who's sitting there with a pee, or somebody sitting with a piece of meat lodged in their throat. They teach you the proper way to dislodge that. There's so many things that CPR training, I don't think I've ever told you this, but my daughter Naya years ago, we were looking at her, she's not breathing and she's sitting there, but she was an infant, and they teach you a certain technique where you flip the baby upside down and you just kind of pop, and that thing came right out of her mouth. And they teach you these kinds of techniques, again, to help save a life. That couldn't be better advice to give, is just to go out and take a CPR class, learn those things, because again, those types of basic instinctful things help save Damar Hamlin's life. And I'll take it a step forward, a step further than that. We're so fortunate here with our schools. I call high school football all the time, and at every game you have an ambulance there. At every game you have trainers, you have assistant trainers, and those folks are trained to act like that. It's not just a pro football situation. And Dr. Kellum, I'm just grateful to now, on a different level, see that they're there and just feel a little bit better that if my son plays, you've had kids that have played high school and college basketball, just knowing that they're there makes me feel a little bit easier.
And they're unsung. And you know what? I think that's how they want to be, because they're not there for recognition. They're just there to make sure that when we fall, they're there to catch us, and they do it time and time again. And I think certainly by their nature they're heroes, but they want to remain in the background, as they've always done. But their preparation, their attention to detail, and their support of the teams that they work for and with is really unparalleled, quite frankly. And so take the time to thank your trainer.
Exactly.
But also take the time to learn CPR, because it's each and every one of us our responsibilities to be able to help people in a moment of need. And my prayer is that you would never have to use it, but in the one instance that you can save a life, think of the impact that you can make on an individual and their families forever. And so that's my hope and the message that we get from today.
And folks, in the comments in the title, in the comments that we list this podcast, you're going to see a couple of phone numbers that you can go to, a couple of websites you can go to if you do want to take one of those classes to help prepare yourself to help somebody who could potentially be in need. Dr. Kellum, this has been a great topic, and something that a little more on the serious side, but this was such a serious occurrence, and it unfolded in front of one of the largest audiences that we could ever imagine. Watch, it was a Monday Night Football game, national TV. It goes into, and it's one of those rare occurrences that went from a sports story to a news story, and the guys that covered that, I think, just did a fantastic job, from Joe Buck to Troy Aikman to Scott Van Pelt. Ryan Clark, Booger McFarland from ESPN. Those guys did a really good job of detailing what was going on and highlighting the first responders adequately when they needed to be highlighted.
Absolutely. I mean, and I would take it a step further as well, going from a sports story, a news story, to a life lesson.
Yeah,
and that's where we want this to continue to evolve. And so for all of us, the horrific moments of watching that, I think, were devastating, but there's something that we could learn from that. And for me, that's the one thing that if we get anything out of this young man's tragedy and elation from his recovery, is to do our part. And our part can be to save someone's life if we just take the time to do that. And so again, I'm glad we're talking about this today, because I think something wonderful aside from his life coming can be had for all of us. And my hope is that everyone can be a first responder to someone in need.
All right, guys, remember, if you want to come in Kellum Family Medicine, visit KellumMD.com or give us a call, 210-945-2121. Set up an appointment to see Dr. Kellum or any of the fine providers we have here at Kellum Family Medicine. Dr. Kellum, appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, folks, stay healthy.